I never thought I would try to take my own life. My name is Zach. I'm 26 years old. Growing up was a pretty normal childhood. My parents, though, ended up divorcing when I was 13. Just kind of from there, the next couple of years, I started having issues. I was just really depressed all the time, kind of felt like the problems with my parents were my fault. It just kind of affected me throughout life, kind of those early years after the divorce. Going up into high school, everything was kind of normal until I hit my sophomore year. I turned 16 and I dropped out of school. At that time, I was smoking pot all the time, kind of hanging out with different people and everything like that. We ended up drinking all the time, partying, and just kind of doing things I probably shouldn't have been doing. When I was 17, my sister kept inviting me to go to church, and particularly like to go to the high school group so I can meet other people to try to get me away from going out all the time and smoking all the time. That was probably the first time after my parents divorced that I felt some sort of hope. Like, this was the first time I felt like there was something beyond my depression, something that would kind of help me get through everything. And almost 18 is when I became a Christian. I really kind of just focused on my walk at that point. But shortly after turning 18, I quit going to church. And from there, I just kind of got back into the same thing, just kind of filling that emptiness, feeling that lack of hope with either drugs or alcohol or sex. Just a lot of different things to try to get me through all of that. When I was 21, my dad was diagnosed with cancer for the first time. When we got the news, it was a hard time. I just remembered I was angry, and the depression came back. Luckily, with that, my dad was able to get surgery and do radiation and chemo for his lung cancer, and we were good, we thought. So about a year later is when my dad started getting sick again, and we found out he had intestine cancer, and we had to do radiation for that and another surgery to remove part of his intestine. From there, things went great for about another 8 months, and my dad had colon cancer. I came home from work, and my dad told me he had about a month to live. My dad passed away about a month later in hospice, and just kind of reverted back to everything I was doing in high school. I was just drinking all the time, taking pills, just kind of trying to cope with everything. During that time, I was in a relationship in 2015, October. That relationship ended, and just everything kind of felt like it was falling apart around me. I didn't feel like I was going anywhere with a career. I didn't feel like I was where I wanted to be in life at 22. And one night I tried to kill myself. I took one of my dad's revolvers, and I put a round in it, and I started to just get angry with myself, angry at God, angry at everyone. And I pulled the trigger, and nothing happened. For a split second, there was relief that it didn't go off, but it turned right back into anger, and I pulled the trigger again, and then another time. Um, I just remember I felt hopeless again. I felt like nothing was ever going to change. I felt like I was never going to just amount to anything. I felt like a failure. I felt like if I would have done things differently, my dad wouldn't have died. Felt like if I would have done things differently, I would have been further along in my career. I would have been further along in life. I would have been married by that point, or kids by that point, or just something different. I just felt like just felt really behind and in a really dark spot. After the night, I tried to commit suicide. I ended up going to City View. Jeremiah was my high school pastor, and just someone that kind of was always there for me in hard times. And I constantly saw him posting on Facebook about it, and so I thought, I want to go see what church is like again. And my plan was to commit suicide Sunday night. And I remember going to City View. I was expecting to not see anybody I knew. No one would know who I was, and I would just be able to slip in and out. And before I even got in the theater, 3 or 4 people knew who I was. And as I walked in the theater, I just kind of broke down. I felt something. I didn't know what it was at the time. I was still in a very just bad spot, and I just remember going into City View for the first time, just kind of feeling like there was something to kind of keep going forward for some reason, and just kind of kept going after that. And then slowly, a couple months later, I wouldn't say the depression ever really went away, but it just kind of got easier to go through life. And as I kept searching for answers and searching for hope, things started to go smoother. And I just felt like the more I just grew my relationship with Jesus, it felt better. The depression, the thoughts never necessarily went away, but it's things now that I know are lies. The depression is something I can now kind of get through when those days or those weeks or those months kind of come. Those are things I can work through now. Every dark time, every time I went through hard depression kind of came to mind, it was because every time I was in a really bad spot, I went towards either drugs or alcohol, relationships or sex to kind of fill me up and kind of get me through those things, and it never worked. And I really felt God pulling at me, saying that I don't need to go to those things, I needed to go to Him, and that if I just went to Him, He would fill me up. And just felt like that worked. I felt like there's now hope in my life. I feel like there's joy in my life. There's still hard times, but I can just kind of hold on to that peace and that comfort through all of it. I never thought I'd be able to get through depression, but Jesus gave me hope in that.